The most powerful empire on earth stands at a crossroads. In Rome, an aging emperor prepares to hand over control of a realm stretching from Britain to the deserts of Arabia. But the man chosen to succeed him has been living in bitter exile on a remote island. The year is 12 AD, and Tiberius Claudius Nero, one of Rome's greatest generals, has just received the summons that will change the course of history. After 7 years of self-imposed isolation on the island of Rhodes, where he studied philosophy and nursed his wounded pride, Tiberius boards a ship bound for the heart of the empire. The journey across the Mediterranean gives him time to contemplate the weight of what awaits. Emperor Augustus, now 74 years old and visibly failing, has finally accepted that his beloved grandsons and chosen heirs are gone, taken by disease and the unpredictable hand of fate. The succession crisis that has haunted Rome's first family for years has left only one viable candidate standing. Tiberius knows that his return is not driven by Augustus's affection, but by cold necessity. The emperor needs a successor who can command the legions, maintain the peace Augustus has carefully constructed, and preserve the illusion that Rome is still a republic, not a monarchy. As Tiberius' ship approaches the Italian coast, he can see the great city rising in the distance, its temples gleaming white against the sky. 7 years ago, he left this place feeling rejected, overshadowed by younger rivals, and exhausted by family politics. Now he returns as the future of Rome itself. The question hanging over the entire Mediterranean world is simple but profound. Will this complicated, capable, but deeply reluctant man be able to hold together the greatest empire humanity has ever known? The fate of millions rests on the answer, and 12 AD marks the beginning of a transition that will define the next generation. The Roman Empire in 12 AD is a colossus without equal, but maintaining this vast dominion requires constant vigilance, military strength, and administrative genius. From the cold forests of Germania to the sun-baked provinces of North Africa, from the ancient cities of Greece to the newly conquered territories of Hispania, Rome's influence touches approximately 70 million people. The empire's borders stretch across 8,000 miles, defended by 28 legions totaling around 300,000 professional soldiers, supplemented by an equal number of auxiliary troops drawn from conquered peoples. These forces garrison distant frontiers, suppress rebellions, and project Roman power into regions that have never known centralized rule. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace established by Augustus after decades of civil war, has brought unprecedented stability to the Mediterranean world. Trade flourishes along the empire's magnificent road network, connecting over 50,000 miles of paved highways that enable armies to march swiftly and merchants to transport goods safely. Ships laden with Egyptian grain feed Rome's 1 million inhabitants, while luxury goods from as far as India and China flow through eastern ports. The empire's economy thrives on this interconnected system, with a standardized currency, facilitating commerce from one end of the known world to the other. Yet beneath this prosperity, tensions simmer. In Germania, tribes beyond the Rhine River remain fiercely independent, and the memory of the catastrophic loss of 3 legions in the Teutoburg forest 3 years earlier still haunts Roman military planners. In Judea, religious fervor and resistance to Roman taxation create constant friction. In Gaul, recently conquered tribes chafe under the weight of Roman administration and tribute demands. The empire requires strong leadership to maintain its delicate balance of military might, diplomatic skill, and administrative efficiency. Augustus has provided this leadership for more than 4 decades, transforming Rome from a war-torn republic into a stable imperial system. But as his health deteriorates, everyone from the Senate to the common soldiers wonders whether the transition to new leadership will proceed smoothly or plunge the empire back into chaos. Tiberius Claudius Nero is 53 years old when he returns to Rome, a man forged by military campaigns, personal tragedy, and political disappointment. His military record is exceptional, having conquered territories in Germania, Pannonia, and Dalmatia through a combination of tactical brilliance and relentless determination. Soldiers who served under him speak of his personal courage, his willingness to endure the same hardships as his troops, and his careful planning that minimized casualties while maximizing victories. Unlike many Roman commanders who sought glory through reckless aggression, Tiberius won wars through methodical campaigns and strategic patience. His personal life, however, tells a darker story. Augustus forced him to divorce his beloved wife Pausania, whom he adored, to marry Julia, the emperor's daughter, in a purely political union designed to bind Tiberius closer to the imperial family. The marriage proved disastrous, with Julia's notorious affairs becoming public scandals that humiliated Tiberius and eventually led to her exile. The emotional wounds from this forced separation from Vipsania never healed, leaving Tiberius bitter and resentful toward Augustus's manipulation of his private life. His voluntary exile to Rhodes in 06 BC shocked Rome's elite, but it reflected his deep frustration with being used as a political tool while watching. Augustus's grandsons received a grooming and affection that he never enjoyed. During those 7 years on Rhodes, Tiberius immersed himself in Greek culture, studying with philosophers and astronomers, developing his already considerable intellectual abilities. He became more reserved, more suspicious of others' motives, and more convinced that public service brought only ingratitude. Friends who visit him describe a man of formidable intelligence with growing coldness, someone who trusts few people and expects betrayal from those around him. Now, returning to Rome, Tiberius carries this complex psychological burden along with his military laurels. He knows Augustus summons him not out of love but necessity, and this knowledge feeds his sense of being eternally second choice, valued only when more preferred options have vanished. Emperor Augustus faces the greatest crisis of his long reign, a problem that no amount of military genius or political skill can solve: mortality. At 74, he suffers from numerous ailments that leave him increasingly frail and unable to manage the day-to-day administration of the empire. The succession plan he carefully constructed over decades has collapsed in tragedy. His nephew Marcellus, groomed as heir, died young from illness. His trusted general and son-in-law Agrippa, who might have provided stable leadership, died in 12 BC. Most painful of all, his grandsons Gaius and Lucius Caesar, whom he adopted as sons and publicly designated as heirs, both died in their 20s. Lucius from sudden illness in 2 AD and Gaius from wounds received fighting in Armenia in 4 AD. These deaths leave Augustus facing an impossible choice. He created a system that pretends to preserve republican government while concentrating real power in his hands, a delicate fiction that requires a successor with both legitimacy and capability. Tiberius possesses the capability in abundance. His military reputation is unmatched. He has administrative experience from previous roles, and crucially, the legions respect him. But Augustus has never warmed to his stepson personally, finding him too stern, too withdrawn, too different from the charm and charisma that Augustus himself wielded so effectively. Nevertheless, political reality forces Augustus's hand. In 4 AD, he formally adopted Tiberius as his son, granting him tribunician power and imperium that effectively make him co-ruler. This legal framework establishes Tiberius's position, but emotional distance remains between them. Augustus knows the empire needs Tiberius's competence, yet he continues to favor his other adopted son, Germanicus, Tiberius's nephew, whom Augustus also compelled Tiberius to adopt. This creates a succession within a succession, ensuring continued family complications. By 12 AD, Augustus can no longer deny reality. His health deteriorates rapidly, and Tiberius must return from his military campaigns to be physically present in Rome, visible to the Senate, the people, and most importantly, the Praetorian Guard, who ultimately hold power in the capital. While Rome dominates the Mediterranean, 12 AD witnesses significant developments across the rest of the globe, reminding us that Roman power, vast as it is, represents only one thread in humanity's complex tapestry. In China, the Han Dynasty under Emperor Ping faces its own succession crisis, as the young emperor, merely 14 years old, remains under the control of the powerful regent Wang Mang, who will soon usurp the throne entirely, establishing the short-lived Qin dynasty. The Han Empire, roughly equal to Rome in population and territorial extent, controls the eastern terminus of the Silk Road, that remarkable chain of trade routes connecting east and west. Chinese silk, a luxury so prized in Rome that it literally costs its weight in gold, flows westward while Roman glassware and gold coins travel east, though the two empires have no direct contact and only vague awareness of each other's existence. In India, the subcontinent remains divided among various kingdoms and dynasties following the collapse of the Mauryan Empire. The Satavahana dynasty controls much of central and southern India, facilitating trade between the Rongang Empire and the spice-rich regions of the subcontinent. Indian merchants grow wealthy, supplying Rome's insatiable appetite for pepper, cinnamon, and precious stones, while Roman gold coins circulate widely in Indian markets. The Kushan Empire begins its rise in the northwest, eventually controlling crucial sections of the Silk Road and serving as cultural intermediaries between the classical civilizations of Rome, Persia, India, and China. In Persia, the Parthian Empire under Orodes III maintains its position as Rome's principal rival, controlling Mesopotamia and the Iranian plateau. The Parthians and Romans eye each other warily across the Euphrates River, their relationship alternating between uneasy peace and open warfare. Neither empire can decisively defeat the other, leading to a strategic stalemate that will persist for centuries. In the Americas, civilizations develop in complete isolation from Eurasian events. The Maya civilization flourishes in Mesoamerica, building impressive cities and developing sophisticated astronomical and mathematical knowledge. In South America, various cultures prosper in the Andes and along the coast, laying groundwork for future empires. When Tiberius enters Rome in 12 AD, the city buzzes with speculation, anxiety, and careful political maneuvering. Senators who spent years cultivating relationships with Augustus's deceased grandsons now scramble to realign their loyalties, offering elaborate greetings and protestations of support to the returning general. Tiberius receives these overtures with characteristic suspicion, his years in exile having taught him that Roman politicians value power above loyalty and will abandon anyone whose star appears to be falling. The common people of Rome react with more genuine enthusiasm, for Tiberius's military victories have brought glory to the empire, and his reputation for stern discipline suggests he might restore traditional Roman virtues they feel have eroded under Augustus's more flexible approach. Veterans of his campaign speak highly of his leadership, spreading stories of his bravery and concern for his soldiers' welfare throughout the taverns and markets of the capital. The Praetorian Guard, the elite military unit stationed in Rome, ostensibly to protect the emperor, but actually serving as kingmakers, watches carefully to assess whether Tiberius commands sufficient authority to ensure their loyalty. Their prefects meet privately with Tiberius, receiving assurances of continued generous pay and privileges in exchange for their crucial support during the coming transition. Augustus orchestrates carefully staged public appearances where he and Tiberius appear together, demonstrating to all observers that the succession has imperial blessing. They attend Senate meetings together, offer joint sacrifices at major temples, and review troops side by side. These rituals serve a vital purpose in a society that values tradition and proper procedure. They legitimize Tiberius's position through public association with Augustus's unquestioned authority. Yet observers note the lack of warmth between them, the formal correctness that never quite becomes genuine affection. Behind closed doors, Augustus's wife Livia, Tiberius's mother, works tirelessly to smooth tensions between her husband and son. As one of the most politically astute figures in Rome, Livia understands that the empire's stability depends on a seamless transition. and she uses her influence with both men to facilitate cooperation despite their mutual reservations. The events of 12 AD, seemingly just another year in Rome's long history, carry profound significance for the future of Western civilization. The return of Tiberius and his preparation to assume supreme power represents the first true test of Augustus's most important innovation, the transformation of personal rule into an institution that can survive its creator. The Roman Republic died decades earlier in civil wars between rival generals, but Augustus constructed an elaborate fiction. The Republican government continued while he merely served as first citizen. This system's survival depends on successful transition to a new leader, and no one knows if the empire will accept a successor or splinter back into competing factions fighting for dominance. Tiberius himself understands this burden weighs heavily upon him. He must maintain the fiction of republican government while exercising monarchical power, command the legion's loyalty without appearing to be a military dictator, satisfy senatorial pride while keeping them politically impotent, and preserve peace across millions of square miles of territory containing hundreds of different peoples, languages, and cultures. His personal reluctance to rule, his bitter memories of forced marriages and political manipulation, and his natural suspicion of others' motives creates psychological obstacles to effective leadership. Yet his intelligence, military competence, and administrative experience provide tools for success if he can overcome his emotional resistance. The broader significance extends beyond Rome itself. The empire's stability enables unprecedented cultural and economic exchange across the Mediterranean world. Greek philosophy, Roman law, Jewish monotheism, and various Eastern religions intermingle in ways that will eventually produce Christianity, which emerges from Judea during Tiberius's reign and spreads throughout the empire he maintains. The roads, ports, and administrative structures Tiberius helps preserve become the infrastructure through which new ideas travel, transforming human civilization in ways no one in 12 AD could imagine. As Tiberius stands in Rome, accepting the burden Augustus places upon him, he becomes a hinge figure in history. The decisions he makes, the precedents he sets for imperial succession, and the stability he maintains or fails to maintain will influence the lives of countless millions across centuries. The world in 12 AD balances on this moment of transition, and though Tiberius cannot know it, he stands at one of history's crucial crossroads, where personal choice and historical forces combine to shape humanity's future path.